A federal judge has found a Mississippi eviction law unconstitutional. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's about an eviction law that's in Mississippi that a federal judge recently found unconstitutional. Now, this law, it benefited landlords more than it benefited tenants. And normally I would be like, hey, this is a bad thing, to get rid of this eviction law. But in this case in particular, I do agree with this federal judge that, maybe it went a little bit too far. Okay. So it's quite an interesting situation, and I'm going to have to go over the article so that it explains it a little bit better than I can, since I'm not 100% familiar with the way the eviction law works. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know, are there any, laws or rules on landlords that you actually think that are a good thing, that aren't bad, aren't all bad, that they put in place for good reason and that you actually agree with, okay? Now, I don't think that everything they put in place is good for landlords. I think a lot of it is it's ridiculous and it's, just a burden upon us. But I do believe that, tenants should have some rights to, not get completely screwed over, okay? So, this article comes from MississippiToday.org, and it says, federal judge finds Mississippi eviction law unconstitutional after Kafkaesque nightmare removal. All right, Kafkaesque. Well, let's see what it says. A federal judge has struck down the part of Mississippi's eviction law that allows landlords to immediately seize the property of delinquent tenants, saying it has unpredictable and absurd results. In 2019, an apartment manager stood in front of Columbus paralegal Samantha Connor while he took nearly everything she owned: the electronics she used to stay employed, her children's birth certificates and baby photos, her college diplomas, and even the PlayStation her teenage son bought himself with money he earned, all over less than $1,000 in unpaid rent. Wow. Okay, this is a pretty extreme eviction law. So from what I can tell, it's as soon as the eviction has gone through the courts, the landlord could immediately seize the tenant's assets, like all the tenant's assets that are inside the unit. I mean, that is insane, okay? And I mean, I'm sure that most of the time the landlords allowed the people to take their property, but in the situation that's cited here in this article, it sounds like the landlord just didn't have any patience with it and just took everything. And shame on this landlord for doing something like that. I mean, be humane here. What are you going to do with this lady's, stuff? I mean, maybe you'll sell some of it, but birth certificates? I mean, come on here. This is completely ridiculous. And this is why, people like that, they give landlords a bad name. And that's why people hate landlords. Even though 99.9% of us are good people, you have this 0.1% who does stuff like this. And that's why people hate us, okay? Ah, man. With the help of the University of Mississippi School of Law Civil Legal Clinic, Connor eventually sued the apartment owner, property manager, and constable, asking the judge to examine the law and award her damages. Connor told Mississippi Today she lost more than just belongings that day, which is why the latest ruling means so much to her. To know that I was the catalyst for getting this ridiculous law changed, that gives me back some of the power that I felt that I had lost, she said Wednesday. Facing a surprise removal warrant in early 2019, Connor tried to pack up whatever belongings she could after the property manager at her apartment and a county constable entered her apartment, ordering her to leave. But apartment manager Kevin Castile demanded she drop the items: her laptop she needs for freelance work, hard drives with client information on them, and even a tub of Vaseline. Wow. I mean, come on. What's the deal with this apartment manager, okay? I mean, it wouldn't have hurt to say, okay, we're going to give you till the end of the day to get everything you can out of here, and then we'll come back tomorrow And if it's not gone, I realize they got the constable out there and they're ready to remove her from the property. If nothing else, they could have said, hey, we will sit your stuff down here in the parking lot or on the curb until you can get somebody over here to pick it up. Or, you know what I mean? I mean, come on. I think the law is ridiculous, but the landlords, the property managers shouldn't have been doing this mess in the first place, okay? Oh, my goodness. Castile and Sanders followed her through the apartment like she was a criminal trying to steal her own property, Connor's attorney wrote. Connor recounted what Castile told Sanders during the removal. Make her give it back. Make her give it back. She can't keep it. Tell her she can't keep that. Arrest her. Arrest her. Castile later testified that he sold, donated, or trashed Connor's things. U.S. District Judge Michael Mills said there's just one way to look at what Castile did. It can only be regarded as an act of pure mean-spiritedness and spite that Castile deemed it preferable to throw plaintiff's cherished personal items in a dumpster rather than allow her to keep them or return them to her, he wrote. And I actually agree with that, okay? I mean, that was just childish, okay? No matter how much money this tenant owes you, you'd rather than throw it away. I don't know what this tenant did. I would have to be pretty bitter to get to that point, but this just seems like a complete, like a childish act by somebody who needs to grow up, okay? And now we have a law. We had that. I mean, I'm sure that law was in place for good reason because, right now, in a lot of states, like, where I'm operating, they actually require you to store the tenant's property in storage, for, I believe, 14 days if they're evicted. So, I mean, you just can't sit stuff out on the curb, And so, I mean, there's a good reason for some of these laws to be in place. Some tenants will just abandon a lot of their property, etc. That is not what happened in this case. And now they completely got rid of this law, and it's going to only make it harder for landlords. Now imagine that landlords all of a sudden have to start storing property like they do where I'm operating, okay? I mean, whatever, I feel like a lot of landlords operate in a way that, like, they are, they're not aware of the landlord-tenant laws, okay? And that is causing a lot of issues. That's why I tell everyone, if you don't have a property manager who knows the laws, then you're not doing yourself a favor, okay? If you don't know the laws as a landlord, if you're self-managing, you're not doing yourself a favor, okay? Treat everything like a business, okay? This is just a business transaction. Do not take it personally. Don't try to punish a tenant for not paying you. You're taking it personally and you're getting offended and you make a mistake, and that could cost you really big in the long term. Oh man, ridiculous story. But state law apparently allowed him to do it. Despite what Mills called very vague and non-specific arguments Mississippi Attorney General's office presented in the case in defense of the law, this court concludes that the Mississippi statutes in question are in fact unconstitutional and must be so declared. The November 30th order reads, the judge's order includes a stay pending an appeal, giving the legislator the opportunity to revise the statute in its 2022 session. Michelle Williams, Chief of Staff for Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch, did not say whether the office planned to appeal. We are reviewing the order and evaluating our next steps at this time, she said in an email. Well, yeah, if I was in the Mississippi legislature, I would modify it so that it doesn't punish tenants in a way like that, but still gives the landlords an opportunity to take their property back and get all of the tenant stuff out of there, okay? But yeah, there has to be some sort of limits. I think the majority of landlords are going to do the right thing, but this case really, I mean, it was a little bit too far. Not a little bit, it was a lot too far that this property manager, that this apartment manager, and this landlord went in terms of this tenant. So shame on them. Good decision by the judge, and this is actually one of the few cases where I actually do agree with it.